Hi, I'm Larry Whitmer, and welcome to another Random Active Anatomy. So I gotta put these guys away. These are all specimens that were dissected by our team and then skeletonized by the dermestids and have been laid out here to dry after a cleansing bath in hydrogen peroxide and ammonia. But I need to finish accessioning them and boxing them up so they can go in the collection and we can start all over again. But first let me show you what we've got here. So we've got a variety of specimens. Our first one here is a lovely albatross, which is an oceanic bird, a seabird that came to us from Hawaii. This is about a 5-month-old animal, so a young bird that was actually killed by some dogs. You can see some damage right here, which is sad. And also sad is that most of the albatross, their stomachs are actually filled with our plastic. And so we're actually, the pollution in the oceans, all the plastic we dump in there is directly impacting these birds. And so we humans need to sort of get our act together here. What we can also see here are a couple of crocodilians, an actual freshwater crocodile from Australia, as well as a good old American alligator. I'll do a random active anatomy on these guys all to their own because these are both very interesting specimens. We've also got an osprey, which is it's a predatory bird that sort of lives all around the world. And they're known for actually diving feet first into the water to catch fish with these super impressive talons. What we've also got here is North America's only marsupial, an opossum. And here you can see its cute little prehensile tail. And I think it's super cool. A lot of people don't like possums, but the fact of the matter is we have a marsupial here in North America. Europe, Africa, Asia have no marsupial, so it's pretty special that we actually have one here that's walking around in our backyards. We've also got a couple of bobcats right here, which are also interesting close to home because Ohio University's mascot is in fact the bobcat. These are all, I'm going to flip the camera around here again. So these are all specimens that were collected by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. These are all road kills, and so you can see that there's damage where it was hit by a car. But that was part of a censusing project to see what the health was like for the bobcats in Ohio. And they're actually, the population's doing pretty well. Here's the cute little bobbed tail that gives bobcats its name. We can see we've got some beautiful specimens here. One of the things I brought out here just for fun was a regular old house cat right here. And you can actually compare the size of the skull of this bobcat to this house cat and see how much larger bobcats really are. What I think is really interesting is if I pull this up here, right here is the cute little paw of a house cat with all those little claws that tear up your furniture and maybe your skin. Right there is the claw of a bobcat, a single claw, which is about the size of half the foot of this house cat. And so these are very impressive animals that live amongst us, and we hardly ever see them. What I always say is bobcats see us far more than what we see them. All right, let's look at another specimen that we have here. And this is actually going to be a seabird called a gannet. And gannets are super interesting birds because they are plunge divers. The oceanic birds in the North Atlantic, they actually dive into the water at speeds of like 50, 60 miles an hour from heights of like 100 feet. Then they swim underwater, and they've got some tremendous adaptations for hitting the water at that speed. Their skulls, you can see here, are sort of turned into these highly reinforced arrows that pierce into the water. Even their eye bones, their scleral ossicles, which all birds have, and most reptiles, are actually really large and reinforced. They're much thicker than what we see in most birds. And there's other adaptations that they have throughout their body for that special plunge diving adaptation. Here are some other guys that we've got here. So here are a couple of crows that are always interesting. Here's a pigeon that might not seem that interesting, but pigeons are always around. This was collected by a grad student. And they're actually very interesting animals. Here's a little lizard, a pagona lizard, which is an agamid. that was a casualty at a pet store. Here is a barred owl right here, also from around this area. And this animal, unfortunately, was hit by a car. It was found on the side of the road, and if we look at the back of its head, I think we can see the cause of death. And so that's unfortunate, but it still remains a nice and useful specimen for us. What we've also got here, set the camera down here for a second, flip it around, is a pelican. And pelicans are very interesting. They're actually also plunge divers. We have quite a number of pelicans in our collection because we work with wildlife rehabbers, and they get a lot of these animals in because of the fisheries industry. So we've got a lot of dried up pouches. You can see the pouch here of this pelican with the tongue right in there, and there's the larynx. This is the windpipe. Pelicans are very interesting animals, and actually Emily Caggiano and I, a number of years ago, did a couple of episodes of her series, Dissecting with Emily, on pelicans and their plunge diving adaptations. I'll try to put the link for that in the comments. We've got some other guys in here. We'll flip that around. We've got some little alligators in here. These were small specimens that were dissected by our team years ago, actually, and sagittally sectioned as we dissected them. Here's another sagittally sectioned alligator. This one's pretty interesting because it actually has a pathology. It actually has a hole in there. I'm not exactly sure what that came from, whether it was a bite or a bullet or a spear or something, but it healed up. So what we've also got here, I'll flip the camera around again, is another interesting specimen, which is a loggerhead sea turtle. This is one of two specimens that we got in for DJ Morgan's dissertation work. He was a PhD student in our lab until recently. The one we actually dissected and sagittally sectioned, it was nice. This one was really rotten. The gulls and crabs had eaten out the eyes, and it smelled really bad, but it's a nice skeleton. So we can see that here. And I'll probably do a random active anatomy just on this specimen alone because it's really quite interesting. We actually were able to preserve the ramphotheca that covers the lower jaw as well as the upper jaw here. You can see those there, so we can put this thing back together here. There we go. And sort of see what this skull would actually look like. There it is right there. And so specimen's very interesting. I actually had it out here because I was trying to understand what was going on with the crazy neck that we can see up in here and how they actually build their atlas, the bone that connects the neck to the skull. Also, what's worth looking at here real quickly is the fact that this thing was covered in barnacles. And actually, most of them came off, but I saved a bunch of them, and I saved this one right here because it's interesting. That one was sitting right on the skull right here, and if I slide it out of the way, you can actually see it made a big divot right in the skull. That little whitish spot right there was actually created by that, that barnacle. And so I sort of feel like those things must have been annoying him in life, and I'm glad that I could actually have those barnacles no longer annoy him in death. And so I've got some work here to actually clean up all of these specimens, and so that's today's random active anatomy. Thanks for tuning in.